Alright, so today I want to go over for loops, and basically what for loops are, they're kind of predetermined loops, so you kind of know how many times, or at least have an idea of how many times the loop will repeat. Different from a while loop, right? You don't even know how many times a while loop repeat, right? A user can, mess up the login, as I did in the last example, and you could be there forever, but a for loop actually has a determined amount of times that's basically why you use it for. Um, now, I also want to go over the continue keyword, which skips to the next iteration, and the break keyword, which ends the loop. Okay. Um, okay, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so this is a simple for loop here. Here I have. Let me go ahead and compile it first, just in case. And sorry if, as you can see, I'm using a Linux, and it's an older computer, so it's slow and it makes a little bit of noise. So sorry about the noise. Um, okay, so in order to create a for loop, you need to use the keyword for, and then what is repeated, just like the other loop, is whatever is in the block here after the brackets. Okay. Now we're familiar with this, so we're gonna go over just the syntax here. So the way that it works is you initialize a variable such as x equals to 0, or whatever you want to initialize it to. So you do your initializing on the first part, and then put a semicolon. Next, you state the condition in which the for loop will execute. So the for loop will execute as long as x is less than 5. So this has to be true right here. If x is not less than 5, it will not execute even once. So it's not like the do while loop. It just won't execute at all. And then here, you put the changes to the variables here. So each time the loop goes through what we call an iteration, it'll add 1 to x. Okay? So we've already ran it here, right? So what does it do? It prints out the word iteration and whatever the value of x is. Now let's go ahead and just go over it. The very beginning of the loop, we have an x equals to 0, which we initialized. We check the condition right before anything. Is x less than 5? Yes. Okay. Then we go right here. We don't execute this part. We go right here to the block and execute all the lines in this block. So iteration, okay, we print iteration plus the value of x. The value of x here we have, this is incorrect, I'm sorry. I don't know why it does this. Usually when you use the command line, it, I don't know if I didn't save it or what, but it just creates problems. So let me remove my loop dot class. Let me compile it again. I don't know why it does that. Okay, now we go to Java. Okay, that's the correct one. It doesn't start at 1, it starts at 0. So right off the bat, it checks x equal to 0. Well, go ahead and print 0. After you execute this line of code, then you go back to this part. So what does the statement say? It says go ahead and add 1 to x. So the second time around, it's gonna skip this part. We don't touch this part ever again, only in the very beginning. It doesn't touch this ever again. We just deal with this part after the first execution. Okay, is x less than 5? Well, x is now 1, right? Because we added. Yes, go ahead and execute this. Iteration, okay, iteration, and the value of x, which we set to 1. 1, okay? And then you keep doing that. Each time you repeat, it goes back through, adds 1 to x, and then checks if x is less than 5, okay? Let me go ahead and just clear it here so we can see it more clearly. Java, okay. Iteration, 0, right off the bat, right? So it says, hey, initialize this, check if the condition is true. Is the condition true? 0 less than 5? Yes. Go ahead and execute this. Iteration plus x, okay, iteration plus 0. After you're done with this statement, we go to this part, which is x plus plus, so it adds 1 to x, and then we go here. We just deal with these two after the first iteration. So then it's iteration 1, then you check again, you add 1, and check again, iteration 2, iteration 3, iteration 4, iteration 5. Okay, so that's basically how a for loop works. It'll repeat depending on what you set. Now we could set this differently. We could set this x is equal to 5 and x is greater than 0, and then x minus minus. So what do you guys think this does? Well, it's going to set the initial value to 5, and then as long as x is greater than 0, it's going to repeat. And each time we go through the iteration, it's going to subtract 1. And we're going to go ahead and just see it because it's a lot easier if you can see what's going on. Okay, so it does it backwards, right? It starts at 5, checks if it's true. If it's true, well, it prints this iteration plus the value, and then it does this statement right here, so x minus minus. It just subtracts 1 every time, okay? And you can do a bunch of things here. You can do, times whatever, times, you can divide, you can multiply times another variable, and then you can set that variable here. So x equals to 5, y equals to 2, and then you can do x equals x times y. Let's go ahead and do that. So what will this one do? This one will, let's change this as long as x is less than 30. Okay, so let's compile it. Okay, so this one will set x equal to 5, right? And then it'll set another variable, y equals to 2. Okay, so we're just doing initializing. This part only happens at the very beginning. After the very beginning, we never go to this part on the left side of the first semicolon. So we're just initializing variables, and then we're gonna check the condition. As long as x is less than 30, this statement will be repeated. Okay, now here, instead of just adding 1 or subtracting 1, the value of x will change by multiplying x times y, which is 2. So we're basically doubling the amount every time, right? So the first time this should print 5, right? Yeah, it should print 5. And the next time it should print 10. Next time it should print 20, and then that should be it, I believe, if my math is right. Yeah, so 5, 10, 20. Okay, so that's basically what a for loop is. Okay, now I want to go over the break keyword, and let's say we set this to 100, to 1,000. Okay, so this will repeat for a large amount of times, right? Let me clear it up, and we can see here, well, I guess not too large, right? Because when you double something, it's increases by a lot. So 5, 10, 20, as you can see, it stops before 100, because if you double it again, it's going to be 1280. Okay, so well, what would happen if we wanted it to break for whatever reason, if we wanted to end this before? So let's say if x, let's say we only wanted to go to 100. If x is less than or greater than 100, if x is greater than 100, break. What do you guys think we'll do? Well, this will end the loop. As soon as we hit 100, we shouldn't see any of the other ones. Let's go ahead and compile it. Unless this program, let's see. Okay, so as you can see, it goes, if x is greater than 100, break. Why didn't it do the other ones? Because I think this thing needs a bracket. You never know with the command line what kind of weird stuff you're gonna get. Yeah, see? I don't know. That's why I don't like using the command line. You get weird stuff like that where if you don't have the brackets, it does that. Okay, so 5, 10, 20, 40, 80, right? And then as soon as we go over 100, it hits the keyword break, which basically ends the loop. So obviously we don't need it in this situation, but you will need it for certain situations. Okay, I don't use it a whole lot, but it is kind of useful. Now there is another word called the continue keyword. Continue. And this basically, so let's say if x is greater than 100, but x is less than, let's see, 600. So if x is less than 100 and x is less than 600, so if it comes between that range, it'll continue, and what it'll do is it'll go to the next iteration, which means we shouldn't see any numbers between 100 and 600 because this should not be executed. Okay, let's go ahead and try it. Okay, let me clear it up. Okay, so as you can see, we go 5, 10. This is not right. Let's go ahead and we can kind of get issues with this. Let's remove my loop class. Okay, so let's go ahead and just execute it again. Let me make sure I saved it. Compile it. Skip the Java. Okay, there we go. Yeah, as you can see, you can have kind of issues with if using the command line. I had to remove it, and that usually works, removing the program. Okay, so if x is less than 100 or less than 600, go ahead and don't execute anything below. Just go to the next iteration. That's what it does. So 5, 10, 20, 40, 80. As you can see, we don't have any numbers between 100 and 600. But once we go over 600, this condition is no longer true. So then it goes over here and it does execute whatever is below. So continue just goes to the next iteration. And iteration is basically, as we went before, is each time you go through the for loop. Alright, so hopefully that helped.